Hey, ho, hey, how's it going, everybody? Hello there. Today, guess what? We're talking about Lord of the Rings. Oh, sweet days. Look at that kiss. Holy moly, is that spicy. Can we just, stay and watch this scene? Because this is really nice. No? It's going to get taken out for copyright? Okay, quick break. Everyone, if you want to go watch this scene, I know I want to watch it. It's a beautiful scene. So, we'll meet back here soon. I feel like the majority of you certainly did not just go watch that. But if you did, that was good, hey? Wow, what a scene. Anyways, today we're talking about a different aspect of this trilogy, themes. Or more importantly, understanding the themes of the Lord of the Rings. Specifically, the three themes that are most paramount to the story. The corruption of power, the pity of Bilbo, and fellowship. If we are to understand the themes of the Lord of the Rings, we must first understand theme in general. So get ready, because this is the boring part of the video. Yay! You don't really have to go in depth with these movies to see that they are expressing ideas and morals through their narratives. Actually, a lot of the time, the movies just kind of tell you what they're trying to say.
Even the smallest person can change the course of the future.
Hobbits really are amazing creatures. There is only one Lord of the Ring, and he does not share power. Men are weak.
But we have no songs for great halls and evil times.
How do you pick up the threads of an old life? How do you go on? When in your heart, you begin to understand there is no going back.
So those were all expressions of different ideas and morals, but not all of them were themes. Most of them were simply messages. So if we're going to talk about theme, let's discern the difference between theme and message. Now, we could use a scene from this trilogy to show the difference, but there's a quote from Game of Thrones that I really love, and it also just works as a better example to show the difference here. So we're going to head over to our pals at GOT for this one.
I can't sleep. I don't like the taste.
You don't drink it for the flavor, to be honest.
Alright, that was a pretty good scene, and what Jorn said about drinking is a message. Jorn is the guy, by the way, if that helps with context. The reason what he said is not a theme, however, is because a theme is a type of message that is actively conveyed throughout the story. Although drinking to cope with the dark world that is Westeros is certainly an idea embedded in the narrative, it's not one that's present behind the majority of the decisions or actions carried out by the story's protagonists, and therefore it isn't a theme. What Galadriel says in this next scene is a theme.
Even the smallest person can change the course of the future.
The idea that a small person, like a hobbit, can change the fate of the world is a theme because it's pretty much behind everything the hobbits do. Underlying every bold or courageous action of theirs is that idea that even they can make the world a better place. So now that we know what theme is, at least hopefully we do, that really was not the best explanation I could have given. It is finally time to look at the themes of the Lord of the Rings. Not all of them though, because I don't know all of them. So we have a number of themes centered around the ring, themes like addiction, or more specifically, things that have power over us, often as a result of us giving them power. We also have this theme of lusting for power. We see that a lot in Boromir and Faramir as well before he lets Frodo and Sam go. This weakness we initially see in both characters ties to another theme in The Lord of the Rings, one regarding race. Obviously, there's a whole feud between Legolas and Gimli throughout the trilogy, hinting at that resentment between the races of elves and dwarves. And in The Return of the King, we see them finally set aside that pride.
Never thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
I could do that.
But more prominent than the pride of elves and dwarves is the lack of pride we see in Aragorn.
You are a Isildur there. Not Isildur himself.
The same blood flows in my veins. Same weakness.
Elrond says to Gandalf,
Men are weak.
and we see that Aragorn agrees with that, and he fears that weakness. He knows why the ring wasn't destroyed all those years ago when Isildur had the chance, and it haunts him that he too would be unable to resist the power of the ring. So there is this notion that, as Elrond says, the race of men, or humankind, is weak, and we see this time and time again, as I mentioned with Boromir and Faramir. This being said, all three of those characters ultimately defy that legacy.
Forgive me. I did not see. I have failed you all. No, Boromir. You fought bravely. You have kept your honor.
Then it is forfeit. Release them.
Would you destroy it?
This theme is even larger than that though, as it also speaks about the hobbits and the Ents and the other races of Middle-earth. We also have themes concerning love, which ties into perhaps the most prominent theme in the trilogy, fellowship. This, combined with the themes of corrupting power and the pity of Bilbo, is what truly drives the narrative of The Lord of the Rings. I think it's fair to say The Lord of the Rings is centered around the journey of Frodo and Sam bringing the One Ring to Mordor and destroying it in Mount Doom. The ring's destruction is kind of the focus of the whole narrative. It is the objective and the endpoint for the plot. So how is the ring destroyed? Or more importantly, what allows for its destruction? Well, if we look at the moment it was destroyed, we see that it was Gollum falling into Mount Doom as a result of his fight with Frodo. The cause for both these instances, the fight and the fall, is the corruption of the ring. The story is suggesting that evil and corruptive power eventually destroy themselves. Frodo fails to destroy the ring. He is corrupted by its power, and for a moment it seems as though the power of the ring, its evil, is keeping itself from destruction, as it stops Frodo from casting it into the fires of Mount Doom. But then Gollum comes along, and his corruption is so deep and so vile that he has lost all humanity. So when he and Frodo tumble over the edge of the rock, he doesn't care if he falls. All he wants is the ring, even for a second. Frodo, however, in that moment, is able to finally let the ring go in order to grab onto the ledge and save himself. So Gollum shows how the ring's evil, its power, eventually leads to its ruin. Gollum is also kind of the reason the ring gets destroyed. But if we go back to Gandalf's quote in Moria, he says this,
The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of men.
and in the end we see that he was right. Although it was the ring's effect on Gollum that leads to its destruction, Gollum was only there, only alive, because of Bilbo's pity, an epitome for the next major theme. Acts of goodness, even when they seem so small, from seemingly unimportant people, can go a long way in improving the world. That's why Bilbo's pity epitomizes this theme. He spared Gollum's life out of pity. He felt sorry for him. And his decision was later given more context by Gandalf in Moria when he says,
It was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo? Do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment.
a hobbit, a small, unimportant being in the eyes of Middle-earth, in one passing moment, decided to act out of the goodness of his heart, decided to do what was right, and that one small decision is what led to the destruction of the ring. This strength that virtue and morality has is explained beautifully by Gandalf in one of my favorite scenes from the Hobbit trilogy.
Saruman believes that it is only great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is The small things. Everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love.
And then there is one more theme, one that is arguably more important concerning the destruction of the ring than both the pity of Bilbo and the corruption of power and lust, and that is fellowship. This, of course, includes the actual Fellowship of the Ring, the 9 companions set out for Mordor, each doing their best to protect Frodo in his journey to destroy the ring. But this group is separated by the end of the first movie. It's the fellowship of Sam to Frodo that becomes truly special. His loyalty and belief in Frodo becoming a paragon for the theme of fellowship. He believes there is good in a world that seems so full of darkness, and that is what pushes him to carry on.
There's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
Sam doesn't look like our typical hero. He doesn't charge into battle like Aragorn or Theoden. He doesn't have the magic or wisdom of Gandalf, the strength of Gimli, or the skill of Legolas. He's so used to the world of the Shire, a hobbit, one less fit to fight than even other hobbits, you might say. And yet he is perhaps the most heroic person in the whole trilogy, perhaps even in all of Middle-earth. Without Sam, without his kindness of heart, his morality, his loyalty, his belief in goodness, and his love for his friend, the ring would never have made it to Mount Doom. It wouldn't have even gotten close. The fellowship of Sam and Frodo is ultimately what allows good to prevail.
I'm glad to be with you, Samwise Gamgee. Here at the end of all things.